Welcome to another episode of the Commerce Lab by Ecomcy, the place of everything related to Amazon FBA and e-commerce. My name is Vincenzo Toscano, founder and CEO of Ecomcy, and today we bring you another special guest. Her name is Emma, and she's the head of marketing at 8Fig, where actually they help you with everything that has to do with continuous capital to basically scale your Amazon and e-commerce business. So I think because they have so much experience when it comes to basically working with e-commerce businesses, and they have seen everything that's happening in the back end. I think today's topic is going to be very interesting to bring you guys into the conversation, which is basically how to plan ahead when it comes to the e-commerce and supply chain in basically what is happening globally with inflation, possible recession coming up. So it's going to be a very interesting topic to be touching today. However, before we jump into that, Emma, I would like you to give you a couple of minutes just to welcome you to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here, and just to just learn more about you. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing amazing. I mean, it's great to have you here. I've been following your work, guys, at Airfree for a while now, and I think it's gonna be awesome to just learn more about you and the company itself, and then to also get a bit of basically the experience you guys have in the e-commerce space, so we can give some value to our audience today. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah, so let's get started. Tell me more about you. So how you got started into 8Fig, and then if you can also tell us about 8Fig as a company, basically how you guys help e-commerce businesses. Yeah,
Yeah. So, I actually started at AFIG just a few months ago.
awesome.
But it's been fantastic. Like I was definitely drawn to kind of the creativity, the fast pacedness of the organization, as well
Yeah,
as working so closely with sellers. I think it's really cool to because I come from more of like an enterprise like B2B background, and you're just selling to enterprise, you're still selling to people, but you're selling to like 40 different people. And,
that's right.
the end of the day, it's like they don't really, that's not really impacting their personal lives. And so like at AFIG, it's really cool to be able to fund kind of people's dreams. Like, they've given up a lot to start their stores. And yeah, for a lot of them, it's kind of the American dream or to be financially independent, not have to work for the man. And I think that's great. And I think
Yeah,
to like be at a company that is letting people actually live out that dream and not kind of get themselves tangled in, a
yeah,
financial burden, is awesome. So
yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think in the Amazon business, one of the biggest issue is usually cash flow. I mean, sometimes you have
mm.
the strategy, you know what you need to do. You basically have everything under control in terms of the strategy side of things, but you're lacking in cash, right? And that's where you guys can definitely support those entrepreneurs and founders to reach that next level, which without the cash, realistically, you're not gonna get there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, the sellers that we work with, they have a plan. Like, they know what they need to do, and yeah, they just kind of hit where as far as they can go, as far as like they're willing to stretch their money. At this
Yes.
point, they've usually like upfronted money or got money like sourced from their family and friends to fund that inventory, and now they've seen the success. So that's not a fun position to be in where you're kind of choosing between going in debt or shutting down your company. So at 8Fig, that's really where we kind of jump in is see these sellers that have that initial traction. They have a product that people want, and they need to fund the inventory, and they also need to kind of think ahead because usually they are not quite at the beginning of their journeys, but still like fairly early on. And so they
Yeah.
haven't really kind of thought about the scale in which they need to work, the amount of inventory they need to get, the
Mhm.
different batches, like when that comes, and how to optimize it for cash flow, because there's a lot of ways to do it wrong. And
Yes,
so
for
that's
sure.
that's kind of where our funding and planning platform comes in, is we have our sellers work with our planning tool, really think out, what are the batches they need, what's the inventory, like when do they need it, the deposit, the freight costs, the logistics, the marketing costs, all of that, really sitting down and building that out, and then working with our team to make sure that is the optimal way of going about it, the optimal way of getting that cash flow that you need. And, and then when you're approved for that funding, you get the cash that you need when you need it according to your plan. But the best part is that, like, all plans change. And so
Yeah.
we really build that into our model, is that we want you to change your plan. Like, we want you to come to us and say, like, oh, we're anticipating this to be late, or we need to move this and
Mm.
that. And we accommodate all those changes. Like, there's no like fees or anything like that. So we really want to be supply chain friendly.
Yeah,
E-commerce
for
first.
sure.
E-commerce is where we really focus. Like, that's where the world our founders came from. So we definitely understand that you can create a plan, the plan will change, but that's not a bad thing. Like, that's just the
Yes.
reality we live in. Yeah.
100%. And I love something that you keep mentioning, planning, planning. And I think that's super important because I feel like most basically funding solutions out there, they just give you the money and that's it. Then you're on your own and you need to figure out what to do with the money. But I think something that makes you different in the space is that, as you're mentioning, you have a team that help you basically figuring out your supply chain things, your advertising, and basically the high level strategy of the brand, which is actually what is gonna allow me now to jump into today's topic, which is basically planning around the inflation, right? Everything that's happening economically, and I bet that already your team is having this conversation with all your clients, because that's something that if you don't take into consideration within your calculus, I mean, it's very easy to go into negative, right? So I would
Hmm.
like to hear your take here, and what are some of the things you're currently doing at EdFig when it comes to planning for inflation that you could give for advice for audience today? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one thing, which is, I think a lot of these points just seem, I mean, they seem pretty straightforward, but they're just like, they're true, you know? So
Yeah.
it's like, already right now, so it's July, or I don't know when this will go live, but it's summer, mid late summer, so you should
Yeah.
already be anticipating, okay, Black Friday, like the holiday sales, you should already be on that in terms of those shipments. Like, just expect the worst in time in terms of like the timing when that inventory will come. Build that extra time into your plan. So I mean, before the pandemic, like, I don't even, that amount of time doesn't even seem relevant to us anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 6 weeks. Now it's like 3 to 5 months to get what you need. And plus there will always be delays. So, definitely, I wouldn't say like work off of kind of estimated time deliveries. Definitely build some cushion into that. And another thing in terms of, the inflation and recession is that, you can still grow, but really just double down on what works. Like, you probably have a hero product. Maybe you have a few other things you're excited to launch and experiment with. Now is probably not the time to do that. So maybe shift those funds into getting more inventory for the thing that has worked. Also, kind of doing a full audit of your supply chain and looking at, maybe these aren't the most optimized costs, like getting
Yeah.
some quotes from multiple suppliers, like seeing where kind of the weaknesses are in that chain. You can really tighten that up. And then once you've tightened it up for one product, it's so much easier to continue to scale. So yeah, so really just kind of,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I totally
optimizing,
agree with
doubling
you.
down. Yeah. The
Yeah.
one thing, oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, go
Sorry.
ahead.
You were saying? Yeah.
Oh, no, I was saying the one thing that, I mean, there's always gonna be kind of opposing,
Mm-hmm.
thoughts on the matter of, like, what to do in a recession,
Yeah, for
but I
sure.
would say,
For
like,
sure.
the one thing that you could experiment more with, is that your advertising, because a lot of
Yeah.
people are scaling back in terms of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe don't, like, I don't know, like, you can go bolder now. Like, if you have a bigger chance of that making an impact because people are scaling back. So I wouldn't say necessarily, if you don't really have a plan there, like, go and do it. But if that was something that you were kind of experimenting with before, that is an area where you can actually reap the benefits versus maybe, less so with kind of the product side of it.
Yes. Yeah. And I think just to start touching some of the points you brought today, which all of them are amazing, by the way, I think it's the supply chain side of things. I think a lot of people, when they start selling on Amazon, they start working with one supplier. Years go by, but they don't start researching options, right?
Hmm.
They just get in the mentality that this is the only person that can do my product, and they just get stuck in the same basically circle of paying maybe the same fees, even higher fees compared to a supplier. They don't explore new materials, new locations. So I'm very interested to know at EdFig how's that part of the plan. So let's say a new starter coming to play, is that something you guys take very seriously in terms of seeing what is the current suppliers and try to replace it if needed to go down in cost and things like that. So how usually that works? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. So currently, we don't have that kind of built out in our platform, but that is something that we are doing research into right now and kind of working with
Yeah.
our partners to see, because we do want to help optimize that whole supply chain. Right now, we're very
Mm.
focused on, the funding part and then giving the tools for our sellers to
Yeah.
do it themselves, but we want to be we want to be able to kind of offer those recommendations and have more kind of things in house that are a good option for sellers.
Yes.
But yeah, right now it's more of like we have experts and we can give
That's
you
great.
opinions, but in
Is
terms of
yeah,
like
that,
building
I
the
mean, that's
product, not
amazing.
yet. Yeah.
Yeah, that's better than nothing, 100%. I mean, I think just the fact that you can get some opinion and feedback, I think that opens the eyes for the Amazon search, because I have met so many of them that they just get close-minded about using the same supplier over and over
Mm.
again. And at the end of the day, if you can reduce your cost, you made some of the, it's the easiest way to make profit, right? You're lowering your costs, and then that's going to be reflected down the line, right? Great. So yeah, actually, you also mentioned something which is actually also attached to the supply chain side of things, which is actually the logistics and terms of planning, right? So you were mentioning that now you usually plan 3 months in advance, and I bet that also has to do with avoiding going out of stock and make sure you have more inventory in hand, and basically that's gonna give you more flexibility when it comes to basically start implementing strategies in the advertisement side of things as well. So just to summarize the question overall, is that I bet that right now in EdFig you have a lot of clients that are using your capital solutions to basically start funding mainly inventory to prepare for that, right? And how usually that works in essence.
How they're able to fund their
Use that to
inventory?
basically, yes, that's correct. So usually is that built based on the historical data in terms of how their sales are doing, or you guys are
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
great question. So, yeah, we actually did just release a new tool, our sales
Mm-hmm.
analytics dashboard as well. So, and this is for not just clients, like anyone can like sign up on the platform and use it. And so you can connect your store, and then we do have algorithms taking kind of a look at your data and gives you a sales forecast just based off of the past data. So when we're giving funding, it's kind of a similar thing where we're looking at your sales data as well as like we look at, what the product is, what the market for that product's like there's a lot of different variables. So, and that determines kind of, you determine what you're asking for and we kind of validate that. We're not necessarily telling you like the exact amount that, a lot of people come to us and like, what do I
Mm-hmm.
qualify for? And it's more of like,
Yeah.
well, what do you need? What is
Yeah.
the need? And, what do you think is possible? And then we kind of validate like, like, oh,
I
that
see.
that 100% like that can totally work. And
Okay.
so you can ask, maybe if you were just asking us point blank, like I don't think we'd be able to just give a number. It's fully based off of kind of what you have in mind, what your plan is, what you think you can do, and then we're just there to validate it really.
Okay.
So and that's kind of how it works, and that's why we have the planning tool where you fill out and kind of say where you want to be,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
not everything not everything is going to be realistic
Yeah, I
obviously,
mean, at
to
least
a
something
point,
close.
yeah,
Yeah,
but yeah, 100%. So
that's
it's
great.
yeah.
Okay, and I bet also you get this question a lot, and this comes from concern sometimes from the clients that they may say, okay, I really want to get this funding into my business. I really need this X amount of money, but due to the circumstances I'm seeing ahead, like inflation coming up, everything economically, they might be afraid to take the capital loan. Um, so my question overall is how you at Edfic basically implement this into the planning to make sure that if something goes wrong, like maybe the seller is going to be able to pay you that back. Are you guys flexible with that, changing basically your fees and everything so people can understand that model in more depth in terms of their risk reward thing? Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So, we like a huge part of our model is building in that potential of,
Mm,
delays of
okay, that's
shipment.
great.
So
Mhm.
we do accommodate that. Like that's something we've just kind of built in before. And so we can accommodate more risk in that sense. But in terms of our pricing, it's usually, so it's not interest because interest is time based. And so
Yeah.
like if your inventory is delayed by, a month or so, then you can also delay your payments and you're not
Mhm.
paying fees. In which that case, like, oh, then the interest rate would technically be lower. So it's really cost of capital, which is more of a fixed cost
I
per
see.
funding amount. So it's between 6 to 10K per every 100K funded. And that range depends on kind of the variables I touched on before, like sales data, seasonality of your product, and that sort of thing. Um, yeah, and another kind of great component or flexibility that we offer our sellers is that we really focus on, since cash flow kind of
Yeah.
said 37 times is a huge area of our focus. Like we don't start charging you, like you don't have to start paying us back until 2 weeks after you've actually received the inventory that we funded,
Okay,
versus
that's great.
a lot of other companies, they give you the lump sum and you kind of have to
That
start paying
pay
it
me
back
back.
before you, yeah,
Yeah.
before you've even spent it. So
Yeah.
if the whole point is to let you have the cash flow you need and give you the money that you need to get the products, and we know the supply chain is the way it is, like that can be, several months before you actually have that in hand. So that gives you that extra flexibility of even just a few months. Like we've had our sellers just tell us, like, just those few months of not having to pay back has made such a big
Yeah.
difference, because it's just like so much can happen in that time. And in terms of like needing to get funds from, what they're already selling, like we don't take from what we didn't fund yet.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. Okay, that's amazing. So actually, now I want to also divert my question to something that you also mentioned earlier, which is the hero products. So my question around this is like, when you guys provide funding solutions for an Amazon seller specifically, and let's say he has 10 different products, right? And maybe two of them are the hero products, which usually happens that 20-30% of the catalog will be the one that drive the most revenue. At 8 fig, let's say this client want to be start testing something new, which we advise in this current scenario, it shouldn't be the smartest things to do specific what is happening economically. But let's say they want to start testing and go very aggressive on their 70-60% of the catalog that is not the one driving the most revenue. You guys make also the decision in terms of the funding you provide at the SKU level, or is something that you do it more at the account level, if it makes sense, the
Yeah.
capital you provide?
So it's at the product level. Like
Mm,
we do look at individual products. So we
I
don't
see.
necessarily just say like, here's a bunch of money, you have a
Yeah,
bunch of great
don't
products.
worry.
Like it's very,
Yeah.
so we do try to very much like align it with individual products. Like we have funded multiple products for the same store. Like we definitely can do that. We are also kind of looking into ways that we can accommodate sellers who have like multiple lines, as well as in the sales analytics dashboard, we are planning on rolling out some just like indicators for suggestions on maybe products that are doing well, that aren't funded, that could have the option to be funded, or things like that, where kind of an additional
Okay.
insight layer of like, okay, well, what about these things over here, because they're doing well, so you have the opportunity to
Yeah.
kind of scale that further. So
Awesome.
a few of those kind of analytics pieces we'll be releasing in the free dashboard in the next few months as well.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's great. And this dashboard, I mean, I'm interested actually in this dashboard because I see you guys keep mentioning and also promoting it. And that's also great because I feel also most capital solutions out there, that's it. They give you the money and nothing else. So it will be interesting if you can give us more insight about this dashboard. So it's basically a dashboard people your clients get access to. What kind of metrics you usually can see, and what are some of the key benefits you see people keep mentioning that they love about the dashboard.
So in the dashboard, kind of the main piece right now is a sales forecast, and that's something that anyone has access to. They plug their store into. So you just need to
Okay.
sign up. 8fig.co, and you can just go sign up right now,
Oh,
plug
that's
that
free.
store
Okay,
in.
that's great. Yeah, let's put the link down below.
And then, yeah, and so some of the other pieces that we're still looking to release are just a little bit more of like an insight layer over the
Mhm.
products that you're already selling, as well as a piece I believe is already live is kind of how you're benchmarking against yourself in terms of the past month, past weeks, past quarter, which is a lot of that. Those analytics are out there, but you kind of have to aggregate them in a way that's like easy to digest. So
Yeah, for sure.
we do that for the sellers, and yeah, and we're going to be looking into other ways that we want to provide that value, because for a lot of sellers, it's like they're just doing everything.
Blind,
So
basically. Yeah, sometimes
yeah,
I
to
see
take the
that they don't
time,
have a dashboard or something, so that's why it's
yeah,
useful.
to like export that and yeah, to an Excel and make pivot tables, and like it's not really realistic. So we're trying to just kind of close that loop as much as possible so sellers can kind of just have that high level view all the time, but also that there's actual actions they can take off of it, not just like, oh, by the way, like this number, but like
Yeah.
what does that number mean in the context of um
Okay.
yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, that's great. Now, I would like to start also touching on 8fig as a service itself. So I bet a lot of people now is asking themselves, what is the criteria? How do I get involved? How long does it take to get my first funding? So can we start touching on some of that? Starting first with the criteria. What is usually the type of criteria? Like somebody listening to this episode right now, they should start hitting in terms of checkbox before they can actually apply and have a realistic opportunity to be accepted into the program. Yeah.
Yeah, great question.
Mhm.
So our criteria is we do have a few things. It's you have to have a store for at least 6 months, so 6 months of selling data, and we look for sellers who either are at 6 digits in revenue annually or they're on track for it. So that's usually like 8K in revenue a
Yeah.
month over the past 3 months. So yeah, and then that you need to have a physical product. So there's not
Okay.
that many parameters. It's just like
That's good.
you started
Yeah.
it, you have some initial traction, yeah, and you're ready to just
That's That's great. Yeah, the
for
reason why
more.
I ask these questions because I know some funding solution like there are seven figure requirement and things like that. So it's actually nice to hear that you guys are a bit lower and actually more open to help people that are just on the six figures mark, which is great. That there are many solutions out there. Awesome. And when it comes to the steps, how does it work? Like somebody comes to your website, they connect their account, they go into an interview. How long does it usually take you would say the process from the time they apply to maybe getting their first funding from you?
Yeah, I think the process can usually take around like 48 hours. So it can be really
Wow,
quick. It can be,
that's
yeah, it
fast.
can be a few days.
I
It
was
really just
expecting a week or
depends.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really just depends. Like if you really know what you're looking for and you're really kind of you have the know of kind of your costs and
Yeah.
what you expect, then as long as everything looks good, we kind of give that stamp approval to you pretty quickly.
Wow. Okay.
Otherwise there could be some back and forth. Like
Yeah.
we do definitely have human involvement
Yeah. Yeah. For
to
sure.
overview to review it, but it's still pretty mostly DIY, the whole process. So we try to be as speedy as possible.
That's great. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. That's very nice. So, yeah, I think we cover a lot of questions and topics. Or I would like to ask you for sure as a last question: Is there anything else you think will benefit our audience when it comes to 8fig that you think you would like to mention? Maybe something around your services, your features, something that you think will add value as well.
Yeah, I always want to say more about AFIG. Um, yeah, I mean, I would say like even if you feel like you are, around the threshold of what's possible or like what we are looking for in terms of your eligibility, I say just give it a whirl. Just
Yeah.
go
Why
to our
not?
website. Like you can still onboard, and even if you aren't 100% relevant right now, you could be in the next month.
Yeah.
And either way, we're going to continue to release some features for sellers, whether you're a client or not. So once you're in there, you still have access to the planning tool, the sales analytics dashboard. So I definitely say, check it out. And like, if you're doing something cool, like you're getting traction, you have the motivation, like, yeah, I'm sure we can make it work. So
Love it.
we'd love to connect.
Yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, on that note, can you share with us where people maybe can reach out to you if they want to ask you more about 8 Fig? Yeah, so if maybe they have any specific questions, how they can find you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You can find me at Emma at 8fig.co, not C-O-M.
Yeah.
And also our website, 8fig.co. I also have a Twitter, but like maybe not the best place to reach out. But I mean, our Twitter is active as well, like 8fig spelled
That's
out,
amazing.
and Instagram, and we have a TikTok.
Wow. So
Um,
yeah, you're getting into that
we
as
have
well.
to we have to like have a more of a game plan, but we're throwing some stuff at the wall, and
Good.
if
I
that's
mean,
for
it's all
you,
about testing. It's all about testing.
doing
Yeah.
some dances, like.
Good, good. That's very nice. I bet every single time you get a new client, you do a dance on TikTok to
Oh
celebrate.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of dances.
Good, good. Very nice. So yeah, I'm gonna make sure to put all the links in the description so people can find you. But yes, I want to thank you very much for your time and all the tips given to us, and also giving us basically a glimpse about what 8Fig is about. And yes, looking forward in the future to have you again to keep discussing. Yeah,
Awesome. Thanks for having me. This was
it's
fun.
it's a pleasure. Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.